loud bang came from the soul refining sect's protection formation. The formation trembled and then completely collapsed. This loud bang immediately echoed throughout the soul refining sect. Even the three main mountains trembled as a large number of rocks fell off and cracks appeared on them, terrifying the disciples inside. In the sky, a red figure wearing a red robe appeared. This figure gave off an unimaginably powerful aura. At this moment, the sky lost its color, and only this figure existed. Zhuque Zi. Tian's expression was very ugly. He didn't have time to play with this soul fragment, so he waved the 1 billion soul flag and captured it. Tian. Zhuque Zi was wearing a fiery red robe and his hair was moving without any wind. Although he looked ancient, he still exuded a very oppressive aura. This person casually stood there as the sky darkened. All of the light was coming from his fiery robe, completely displaying his dominance over planet Zhuque. One couldn't feel a strand of spiritual energy, or even celestial spiritual energy in his body. But early-stage ascendant cultivators would be forced to retreat, and even mid-stage ascendant old monsters would unconsciously back up. He was the only late-stage ascendant cultivator on planet Suzaku, the true ruler of planet Suzaku. Zhuque Zi calmly said, "Back then, my country of Suzaku made an agreement with your soul-refining sect. When the country of Suzaku is in danger, you must lend us the 1 billion soul flag. Today this old man is here to borrow the flag. Tian, bring it here." Nonsense. Tian gripped the 1 billion soul flag tightly as he stared at Zhuque Zi and shouted, "How come I have never heard of this agreement from any of the ancestors before? Old thief Zhuque, if you want to steal it, just come and take it. No need to put on this disgusting act." Zhuque Zi looked at Tian, shook his head slightly, and sighed. "This matter was decided between the first-generation Suzaku and your founding ancestor, so it's natural that you don't know about bait. I found out about it in some old records. Today I'm not here to steal but to borrow." With that, he reached out. The sky changed colors, and red light gathered from all directions. The red light formed a giant red hand that pressed down toward Tian. Tian shouted, "Old thief." He waved the soul flag and without any hesitation released all 1 billion soul fragments. Aside from the fourth soul, the remaining 35 primary souls were also sent out. Everything 100 kilometers was covered in soul fragments. Their screams and shrills filled the area. The combined voice of the 1 billion soul fragments was more powerful than any sound wave treasure. The earth within 100 kilometers began to tremble and the surrounding mountains collapsed. The 35 primary souls of the 1 billion soul fragment all had fierce expressions as they tore the red hand to pieces. Then they surrounded Zhuque Zi and stared at him viciously. Zhuque Zi looked at the surrounding 1 billion soul fragments. His pupils shrank slightly as he calmly said, "Tian, since you remain so stubborn, this old man will have to punish you in place of your ancestors. I said I only wanted to borrow the 1 billion soul flag, so I'll borrow it, and then I will return it to you." Tian laughed with mockery in his eyes. "Borrow? How long do you want to borrow it for?" Zhuque Zi's expression was serious as he said, "Lend it to the country of Suzaku for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, we will naturally return it. Old thief Zhuque, my soul refining sect has a saying, if the flag is here, the sect still exists. If you want it, you can try to take it." Tian's eyes became cold as his hands formed a seal, and then he pointed at Zhuque Zi. Fuse. The surrounding 1 billion soul fragments immediately began to gather on the 35 primary souls, and then the primary souls began to fuse with each other. Zhuque Zi's eyes lit up. He couldn't allow this fusion to continue. He reached out, and a red feather appeared in his hand. He sent the feather forward, then it suddenly began to burn and release a ghostly light. "Holy Suzaku flame." Zhuque Zi's ancient voice boomed from his mouth. The burning feather trembled and suddenly collapsed. A surge of fire began to spread, with the feather as the center, and immediately covered the surrounding 100 kilometers. The power of this flame was unimaginable. The 3 mountains of the soul refining sect were turned into black, viscous liquid. However, this liquid quickly turned to gas. Even the cave Wang Lin was in disappeared, and Wang Lin disappeared along with the cave. The entire soul refining sect disappeared from planet Suzaku. The hundreds of disciples, and even the 3 soul formation elders hiding in the 3 golden rings, weren't able to escape this calamity. The 35 primary soul fragments that were about to fuse were also surrounded by the fire. Black gas was floating up from their bodies, and they all had painful expressions on their faces. Holy Suzaku flame. Tian's face was very ugly. There were 3 ancient jades floating around him. They were blocking the flame. Zhuque Zi's expression was calm, as he slowly said, Tian, the heavens are just. I originally didn't want to do this, but you forced me. Tian took a deep breath, bit the tip of his tongue, spat out a large mouthful of blood, and sat down in the lotus position. Then his hand formed a seal, and he said, Soul Escape. Tian wasn't his original name, but his Taoist name that his teacher had given him. He once told Wang Lin that all users of the soul flag have different ways of using it, and his special method was escaping. The 35 primary souls released a green light, and then disappeared from within the fire. When they reappeared, they were before Tian. What's this? Zhuque Zi was surprised. Fuse. Tian spat out more blood. This time the blood landed on one of the primary souls. Then, in an instant, the 34 other primary souls fused with it, in the blink of an eye, an aura that could match Zhuque Zi appeared, and the sky seemed to have been split in two. The left side was fiery red, representing Zhuque Zi. The right side was black, representing the late-stage ascendant soul, formed by the 35 primary souls and 1 billion soul fragments. The moment this soul fragment appeared, it waved its hand, pushing all of the flames that were on the right side to the left side. Like the sky, the ground was split between black and red. Zhuque Zi's pupils shrank. His expression was a bit ugly as he stared at the soul, and said, Not bad. With that power, it can be considered the top treasure of planet Sutsaku. Tian's face was deathly pale. He only had less than 2 years left, and now that he had used the soul flag's fusion technique, he was almost out of time. He softly whispered, Kill him. The late-stage ascendant soul fragment didn't go forward, but raised its hand. A rumbling sound came from all directions as clouds gathered to form a human-shaped body. This body was made of clouds, and at a glance was no different from a mortal. The ascendant soul fragment took a step forward and fused with the body made of clouds. The cloud person opened his ghostly eyes and stared at Zhuque Zi to form a body from the clouds. That is indeed only something late-stage ascendant cultivators can do. However, you are created from fusion. I want to see how long you can last. Zhuque Zi's expression was ugly. With that, he waved his hand. A red light appeared in front of him and transformed into a short, red sword. The moment the sword appeared, the flame on the ground was sucked into the sword. This sword is very ancient, and no one knows its true name. The first generation Suzaku got it, and named it the Suzaku sword. With that, Zhuque Zi pointed at the sword with his right hand. The flying sword immediately glowed red, as if it were filled with celestial spiritual energy. This sword was no different from the sword of a celestial. This sword was a celestial treasure. The cloud person's eyes lit up, and he waved his right hand. His entire right hand flew off, and became a sword that was the same as the Suzaku sword. Aside from the color, it looked exactly the same as the Suzaku sword. Even the enormous amount of celestial spiritual energy was the same. Then he pointed at Zhuque Zi, and the small, white sword shot forth. The red and white swords collided with each other like meteors. After a series of collisions, the white sword was clearly no match, and was pushed back. However, the red sword had taken hits from the white sword's powerful celestial spiritual energy, so it was slowed down. The cloud person stared at Zhuque Zi, and let out a faint smile. Then his cloud body collapsed to form 8 more copies of the exact same sword. Each one of them contained an enormous amount of celestial spiritual energy. The 8 swords shot out at once. 3 of them went after the Suzaku sword, and the remaining 5 went toward Zhuque Zi. Zhuque Zi's expression was ugly as he backed up few hundred feet. He slapped his bag of holding to take out a gourd, then he muttered, Collect. The 5 swords were surrounded by a powerful force, and then, in the blink of an eye, were trapped inside the gourd. Zhuque Zi's eyes lit up. He was about to use the gourd to collect the 3 other swords, but just at that moment, he heard crackling sounds coming from the gourd. A second later, a heaven-shattering sound escaped from it.